Hey everybody, it's David Duford here at buylifeinsuranceforburial.com, where I help people like you get affordable final expense life insurance. In today's video, I'll be talking about the official guide to getting life insurance if you've had a history of epileptic seizures or epilepsy. So let's go ahead and get started. So overview of today's video. First, I'm going to introduce you to myself formally as well as to my company. I'm going to define for you exactly what is epilepsy and the factors that we're looking for to figure out what, if anything, we can qualify for as far as life insurance goes. Then we're going to break it down a little bit further and look at the specific considerations that will determine potential insurability with epilepsy, which include frequency of seizures, medications, and original diagnosis. Then I'm going to talk about the types of insurance that are available to epileptics, including simplified issue whole life and term insurance, and then talk about the pros and the cons and show you sample rates of each. Then I'm going to conclude by telling you how to apply for a plan like this, as well as describe the next steps if that is something you want to do. So my name is David Duford. I am the owner and operator of buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. I've been licensed as a life insurance agent since 2011 and have helped well over 3,000 people as of the current year with their life insurance needs from all walks of life. Also, I'm a published author. As you can see in the corner of your screen, I am the author of the official guide to buying final expense life insurance. It's a quick, easy read to help people like you figure out what your options are for life insurance, either for yourself or a loved one. And then also, I recruit and train agents nationally from coast to coast and actually help them become contributing members of their community as life insurance agents and helping their community find quality life insurance options to pay for things like final expenses, income replacement, and that kind of thing. Last but not least, I am also married, and as of now, the filming of this, our fourth child is due anytime now, so wish us luck. So let's go ahead and start off with a quick definition of what exactly is epilepsy. So epilepsy is a neurological disorder which is marked by sudden episodes of sensory disturbance, loss of consciousness, or convulsions. Epilepsy is something that can be caused from a disease manifestation or an outside source of trauma, such as car wrecks. I had a friend who is an epileptic now because he had a traumatic brain injury in a car wreck and has had epileptic seizures as a part of his daily life in which he must manage. And depending upon the severity of the epilepsy, and then medications taken like Lamictal, gabapentin, Keppra, or Topamax, these are things that can help minimize or eliminate the convulsions altogether. There's some people who had seizures, and as long as they take their medication on a strict schedule, they completely eliminate them altogether. So with all that said, let's talk about what you can qualify for regarding life insurance if you have epilepsy. So the short question is yes, you can qualify for something. The long answer is it depends on some factors related to how severe your epilepsy really is. So why don't we go ahead and just jump in and talk about those factors right now. So here's what we're going to be looking at as somebody who has epilepsy and what I'm concerned with discovering. So first of all, I want to know the seizures in which you have. Are these seizures that are occurring currently? Are they seizures that have happened well in the past? When we do underwriting to approve somebody or at least apply for life insurance, we need to know the seizures and the frequency in which the seizures occur. In most circumstances, the longer out the seizure has occurred, the better the chances are to get a policy in place. That doesn't mean there aren't carriers, though, that will work with you if you've had a recent seizure. I know of several off the top of my head that will. Also, the frequency of seizures. So if you've had one in the last year, that may be a different underwriting decision or effect than, say, 100. Also, the medication used. Which medications are you using, like the ones we mentioned prior? How long and for what dosage are you using those medications for? That sometimes has an impact on which plan you will be approved, or at least we would apply you with. And then the original diagnosis, when we were originally diagnosed with epilepsy. And is there some other health conditions that may play a role with affecting the epilepsy? Sometimes people with epilepsy have other health conditions, and so we have to look at those equally as much as the epilepsy. So that's a unique situation for each individual that I speak with, but that's why we do one-on-one consultations together, because everybody has a different set of circumstances that have to be accounted for. So let's talk about the types of life insurance that are available for epileptics. So here's the thing. We need to talk about what options would suit you best. So when I say best, that is a subjective term that is unique to each individual person. So somebody's best insurance is going to be different from another person's best. It may be their worst insurance. So what we try to figure out when we sit down with a client is to define what their goals are, what they want a life insurance plan to do for them. It's really important as an agent to listen to you, to allow you to fully communicate why you want a life insurance plan, what you want your life insurance plan to do, to envision what you want that to pay for or to go towards. We need to know really what your hopes and dreams are and motivations are for a life insurance plan to begin with, because with this information you provide us, that allows us to go and hand select what we feel matches your goals the best. So let's talk about some things people buy life insurance for. One reason people buy life insurance is to pay for final expenses, and this includes such payments as the payment for a burial or the payment for a cremation. These are expenses everybody will experience, and having a life insurance plan dedicated to paying those can provide peace of mind and knowing that they won't have to come up with money that may not be there at that time. Or worse yet, having family members like kids or loved ones pass the plate, if you will, and try to figure out which of these options would suit them best. So having a plan dedicated for final expenses is a great reason why somebody with epilepsy would like to get life insurance. Another reason is to replace income. This can be used really at any age depending on the circumstances, because the inherent need is the same. Typically it revolves around somebody who is a breadwinner, who brings in the majority of the income. And the picture you must paint is imagining your life without that breadwinner, or imagining you are gone if you're the breadwinner. How does your spouse live? How do they survive? If your income is cut in half, how do you make do with everything that you're doing currently? Paying the mortgage, paying the bills, planning for vacations, paying for kids' activities. These are functions and things in which don't go away when somebody walks out. The bills still walk in. And having a pre-dedicated life insurance plan to replace that income that is now gone from the loved one gives a ton of cushion. It gives a ton of peace of mind knowing that while your loved one's gone and life will never be the same, at least that your lives and your family aren't going to be so financially destroyed as if you didn't have that life insurance to begin with. We also see this for older couples who rely on each other's Social Security in order to maintain their lifestyle. So buying a life insurance plan to take over when one of those spouses passes away does the same job. It provides peace of mind, a financial cushion, and allows life to continue on with less stress than there would be if there was no plan to begin with. Also, debt repayment. One big reason people buy life insurance is because they want to make sure that their debts are handled so their family doesn't have to pay it. So a couple of examples would be if somebody had a business loan. Having a life insurance plan to cover the business loan is great. The bank loves it because they'd rather get paid if they have a business loan as acting as collateral upon death than if they were to go in and do a fire sale. It's a lot easier, a lot cleaner to take care of matters. As well as if you have a mortgage. A lot of people buy life insurance to cover the mortgage if someone passes away. So these are good reasons to own life insurance to cover for these financial obligations. The other thing you got to ask yourself too when you're looking at life insurance, no matter what walks of life you're in, if you're an epileptic or not, is what kind of budget do you have in mind? You want to make sure with whatever that you want to purchase, it's something that is easily affordable. You may want a big plan, but maybe your budget doesn't allow it right now, but it's certainly better to get something than nothing at all. So get something that's budget conscious, that it's not going to be a big stressor to continue to keep it, because the goal is to keep this for as long as you live and to think about that kind of mindset when it comes to actually selecting a plan that you want. So really, for an epileptic, what I've discovered and what I'm going to show you is there's two different kinds of plans that you may qualify for. The first kind is called a simplified issue whole life, and the second kind is called a simplified issue term life option. So let's go ahead and look at both, as well as look at prices and carriers that would accept somebody for life insurance if you have epilepsy. So let's start with whole life simplified issue life insurance. So real quick, I'm going to describe to you the benefits and then take you off of the screen and show you some carriers that will accept epileptics with a simplified issue whole life. So simplified issue whole life is what we call permanent life insurance protection. You literally cannot outlive this coverage as long as you pay it. So a lot of people buy permanent life insurance because they want to pay for final expenses, or they want to ensure an income replacement policy is in force at the time of the person's death. And the nice thing about these plans is the vast majority of them have no rate increases ever. Whatever you're quoted on and as what you're approved for is what the price will continue to be for the rest of your life. And there's a pretty high possibility, even with epilepsy, I can't guarantee it, but there's a high possibility that you'll qualify for first day full coverage, which means that even if one payment in you pass away, whatever the amount of coverage is for will be paid for to your beneficiary. And like I said, it's permanent, so it can't cancel due to age or health. And it's primarily used to cover things like funeral and cremation costs. Most plans are available up to age 85 and beneath that as well. And we see coverage amounts as little as $1,000 all the way up to $50,000. And I would like to say that in comparing this to the simplified issue term insurance we're going to look at in a minute, this is the most flexible underwriting. For the people with severe epilepsy, there's going to be more options with simplified issue whole life than there will be with term insurance. So I want to show you some quick prices and terms. I'm not going to get too detailed with the prices. I just want to show you what you can kind of expect for a 65-year-old female and a 65-year-old male for $10,000, which would be enough to cover a burial or cremation. We can go higher, we can go lower, but the goal of showing you these prices and carriers is just to show you an idea of what it would cost, as well as an idea of what your options are for carriers. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen here, I'm going to direct your attention to Liberty Bankers Life, Transamerica, and Settlers Life. This is for males that are looking for $10,000 in first day full coverage, and the price point for each over here as non-smokers. So right around the mid-50s area is what you would be charged for this particular kind of plan. So to kind of demonstrate to you what you could potentially qualify for. So for example, Settlers doesn't specifically ask about seizures on their application in one of their products. So they would be allowed to get first day full coverage, and I'll direct you, you would be at the silver plan. That would be $66.22 a month. But they don't ask frequency, so if you have a lot of seizures within a short period of time or within relative time, it wasn't long ago that you had them, they'll be very flexible in getting you coverage, as long as you can qualify for the other health questions as well. Also, take a look at Transamerica. Transamerica, as long as your seizures have been consistently under control, meaning less than 12 seizures within a year, you can get preferred coverage. If it's been more than 12 seizures over the last 24 months, then that would cause a rate up and get you standard pricing. And then Liberty Bankers, for their standard rate, would be $81.33. They have more flexibility, but you can see there's a big price difference between Settlers and at their silver, and then Liberty Bankers at their simplified standard. So it just depends on the circumstances and the individual nature of what your situation is. And you can see the same companies are available for females. So there's Transamerica, here's Settlers Life, and then here's, if all else fails, Liberty Bankers Life. So let me tell you a little bit about the pros and cons of a whole life insurance product for epileptics. So the pros is you get peace of mind. Simply put, you pay your premium, you know you have coverage, and it cannot be taken away because of some sort of change in your health or age. And that's nice. There's no games played. A lot of these insurance companies will raise your rates, or they'll cancel you out, or reduce your coverage. You don't get that with at least the whole life insurance products I have. And what you see is what you get. You know clearly what you qualify for based on the circumstances, and there's no changes long term. I can't stress that enough. That's very good. And it's easier underwriting. What you'll find is, in comparison here momentarily, whole life for epileptics is much easier to qualify for, it seems, than term insurance products are. Drawbacks include, look, you're going to pay a lot more per dollar of coverage if you are getting a whole life product instead of term, and it may not be sufficient in the amount of coverage because of that. If you're younger and you've got epilepsy, it may be better to get term insurance to cover some of these potential obligations. But if you're older, whole life makes a little bit more sense, just because usually what is required to be paid for is just the basics, the funeral, the final expenses. Now let's talk about term life insurance for epileptics. So benefits include the best coverage per dollar of premium, and the thing there is you'll get a lot more coverage, or a lot more bang for your buck, if you run a term insurance plan. There's no exam necessary with many of these plans, so they don't have to draw blood, perform a physical. They just look at your medical records to determine insurability. And the rates are set for a fixed period of time. Again, term insurance lasts whether it's 10, 20, 30 years, depends on the product. But for that period of time, the rates are fixed. And you can get a lot more coverage amount with term insurance versus whole life insurance. So where we see term insurance most useful is when we try to replace an income upon an untimely passing, or if we need to cover a debt like a mortgage and that kind of thing. With many carriers for term insurance, you've got it availability up to the mid-70s. It may, as far as the amount of length of time, that's going to depend. And you can get much larger coverage. Again, $25,000 bare minimum up to $500,000. Again, depends on the carriers. Each carrier has different requirements. So let's go ahead and take off screen. I'm going to show you some quotes. Okay, so where I want to direct your attention to is the Sagicor and American National. These are 20-year terms for a 40-year-old male for $300,000 in coverage. These are just quotes based on if you could qualify for them. And when we're looking at Sagicor, they will accept in most circumstances, again, it's going to depend on your individual situation, people who have epilepsy as long as they've had no convulsions over the past 12 months. And then American National potentially will take standard ratings, which would be what you see here in these prices, depending and making sure that you can qualify subject to other health questions. Same thing with Phoenix Life down here. We have two different standard products. It just depends upon the underwriting goals here and what the circumstances will turn out to be for each individual. So again, as we get back here to the slides, the main thing I want to demonstrate to you is that there are options that give you an idea of what you would pay and what you would get. Ultimately, it's going to come down to your unique health profile and you actually applying to see what the underwriter is willing to offer you potentially for coverage. So let's talk about the pros for term insurance for epileptics. So the first thing is there's no exam necessary. So you don't have to submit yourself to an examination with most of the amount of coverage that we're looking at. As long as you do the simplified issue products, they're very easy to complete, very easy to get going. So there's not a lot of hand-wringing involved. You submit your application. Many times you get the decision very quickly. And like I said, the pros with term insurance is that it's the best coverage for the amount of best price for the amount of coverage you're getting. The biggest drawback, though, is that bottom line term terminates. You have to understand when you get a 20-year term or whatever the length amount of time is, it's good just for those 20 years. And then above and beyond that, it's not. You lose it or the price goes up. So what do you do then? And you may not have the coverage access that you really need when you need it. So it's important to really weigh the options considering where you're at. Many times what people just do is just compare prices if they're not for sure, and then decide based on that and what they can reasonably afford, and then make their purchase decision. So let me talk about the final steps here as we wrap up to qualify for a quality life insurance program. Whether you do simplified issue term or simplified issue whole life, the application process is very simple. First, you find an agent that you'd like to work with. Of course, I always nominate myself. I have to, after all. I'm an insurance agent and would love the opportunity to help you out. And then second, if you work with me, we gather up the information, what you're trying to accomplish. Then we draw a quote up. As long as you accept it, we send in an application electronically or over the telephone, which is completely easy to do. It's very simple, no worries. And I'm not necessarily required to be there face-to-face, so it's all very simple to take care of over the phone. And then after several days or weeks, you get a decision whether you're approved or not. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And then after you're approved, if you're approved, you get your policy in the mail several weeks, and that's it. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you like what you hear and you'd like to apply for one of these programs as an epileptic looking for life insurance, here's what you need to do. Go to do one of two things. Go to my website. It's buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. Send me a message clicking the contact box or the box at the bottom of the screen and request a free quote. Send me some information about you. Let me see what I can do for you. Or you can call me. It's 888-626-0439. You can speak to me live that way. That way I can take 5 minutes of your time just to show you what you could potentially qualify for. And then you decide if it makes sense for you. If you like this video, please subscribe if you haven't already. I do a lot of videos like this for consumers on a daily or weekly basis. Also, if you found this information useful, please share it, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and also make sure you comment if you have any questions. My name is David Duford from Buy Life Insurance for Burial. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.